This is video 9, Advanced Writing Linear Equations. From our last couple videos, remember we were talking about slope and finding the y-intercept. Remember, slope is simply the change of the y's divided by the change of the x's. That's what that triangle means. That's delta. That just simply means we're going to subtract our two y values and then subtract our two x values, okay? And remember, our slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M is our slope, b is our y-intercept. Okay, so we're just going to jump in. We've got a handful of examples today. This is just kind of diving deeper into some harder problems where we're looking at linear equations. So this first one, we're trying to write the equation. All right, so if you guys remember from our last couple of examples, we were always given, or we could very easily find our y-intercept, which is when the x value is 0. Okay, well, we can't just really go backwards 1 from this. That would be way too hard. We're not going to go backwards 56 times, okay? So here we're going to actually, in a minute, kind of find that y-intercept, and then we'll be able to solve any problem pretty easily without knowing our y-intercept from a table, okay? So first, let's find our slope. So we can go ahead and see the change in our y. So how do I get from 164 to 167? I add 3. Okay, to get to 170, I add 3 again, and again, I add 3. We need that number to be the same. Okay, or actually we need the ratio to be the same. So let's go ahead and look at this side. This is plus 1, and as you guys can see, we just add 1 every time. Okay, now because these are both the same, that means our ratio is going to be the same, which this means our slope is 3 over 1, which just reduces to 3. Okay, so now we know our slope. We can't write our equation yet, okay, but we've got to find our y-intercept first. So we're going to write our equation with the slope. We're going to write everything we know so far. We know it's y equals 3x plus b. I don't know my y-intercept yet, okay? And so we're going to take any point that we want and plug it in for my x and y so we can solve for b. Now, it doesn't matter which point you pick. I'll just do the first one or maybe a random one, or I like to stay away from negatives because I don't love negatives, but you can do anything you want. So I'm just going to choose this first one. So I've got 164 equals 3 times 56 plus b. All right, so 3 times 56 is 168 plus b, and now we've got a one-step equation that we can solve. I'm going to subtract 168 from both sides, and that leaves that negative 4 equals b, and remember that's our y-intercept. Okay, so my y-intercept is negative 4. And now I've got everything I need to write my equation. All right, y equals 3x minus 4. Okay, so we just kind of added this little extra step right here so that we could find our y-intercept. All right, next one. This time we don't have a table, we just have 2 points. Okay, so when we just have those 2 points, we can do our little slope formula with y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one's which. I'm going to call this x1 and y1, and this will be x2 and y2. Okay, if you guys want to flip-flop those, absolutely. First, we're going to find our slope, okay? So I've got 5 minus 4 over, I'm going to start with this 2 right here, this 1 minus 3. Okay, 5 minus 4 is 1. 1 minus 3 would be negative 2, so I'm just going to put that negative out in front. Okay, so that's my slope. I found my slope right now. So let's say this equals m. Okay, now step 2, it says start writing our equation. All right, so we're going to do this in blue again. We've got y equals negative 1/2 x plus b. Okay, now let's plug in the points that we know. All right, so it doesn't matter which one you do. I'm going to use the first one for now. Okay, so we've got 4 equals negative 1/2 times 3 plus b. So 4 equals negative 3/2 plus b. And when I add 3/2 to both sides, let's see, b is going to equal 11/2. Okay. And so now we can write our final equation. We have our y-intercept and we've got our slope. Okay. And I'm just going to keep that as a fraction just to stay consistent. Okay, so now I've got my equation, negative 1/2 x plus 11/2. All right. Okay, so just another example, and we've got a couple more, I think. We've got one more, easy peasy. All right, these are a little bit bigger numbers. This one, we're going to do the same way. Okay, so I'm going to call this x1, y1, x2, and y2. All right, so I'm going to take 16 minus 10 over 33 minus 30. So this reduces to 6/3, and we can reduce that to just 2. So that is our slope. Okay. Now another way, if you maybe forget how to use this formula, is we can put these points in an XY table. So you can just off to the side make your own XY table. And I know one point is 30/10 and the other point is 33/16. If that's easier for you, then we can see, okay, how do I get from 10 to 16? Well, I plus 6. How do I get from 30 to 33? Plus 3. 6/3 reduces to 2. Okay, so those are 2 ways that we can find our slope. We've got our formula, and we also have the table if you don't like using the formula. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and find the rest of our equation. We've got to find that y-intercept. So we start off with everything that we know. We've got 2x plus b. Okay, now we can pick a point. I'd probably use 30 and 10 because those are a little bit easier numbers for me to use than 33 and 16. But you can use either one of them. All right, so I've got 10 equals 2 times 30 plus b. So I've got 10 equals 60 plus b. And after I subtract my 60, using those inverse operations, I get negative 50 equals b. All right, and so now I know the 2 parts to make my equation, so I can go ahead and write y equals 2x minus 50. So yes, this section is called advanced writing equations, but it's only one step a little bit more. Okay, so good job.